My name is John. I'm 35, and this is the story of how I left my wife after 8 years of marriage and 5 years of uncertainty. Our relationship, though seemingly solid, had many issues that only became clear over time. Since my youth, I've always been the nerdy type, smart, with good grades, but never popular. I come from a very affluent family, thanks to my grandparents' inheritance and some savvy investments by my parents. Because of this, I never had to worry about working or going to college to live comfortably. Nevertheless, I was passionate about what I did. I met my wife during my first year of college. She was in my class and needed a tutor. She was attending on a scholarship. We began spending more and more time together, although never on weekends. I wasn't the outgoing type, and she continued to go out with friends on weekends. After a while, we started dating, and after I graduated, we got married. Looking back, I realized she started making significant decisions for us as soon as we got together. During the first half of our marriage, she worked. But when her company downsized, she lost her job. She then became a stay-at-home wife, although she was rarely home. She spent her time on trips with friends, at lunches and dinners, basically living a lavish lifestyle funded by my money. When I was 29, I was involved in a car accident. They told me a drunk driver totaled my car, but I have no memory of that day. I was in a coma for 2 weeks, and upon waking, I had to relearn many things. After 4 months, I returned to work. When I came back home, my wife moved me into the guest room, saying it had been that way for a while because I was snoring. I didn't say anything, but I knew this was new. The accident somehow brought me a clarity of mind. I could see that our marriage had been over for a long time. However, I still wanted to see if I could save it. But everything I tried failed. What sealed the deal for me was my 30th birthday. I came home and she wasn't there. She was having a spa day with her friends. I ordered takeout, watched a movie, and made a decision. I wanted out. The next morning, I went to see my lawyer to start drafting divorce papers. I stopped engaging with her unless absolutely necessary. Slowly, I started selling anything that had any emotional value to me. I left all her belongings for her. I bought a new car and left it at a nearby parking garage. 2 months after my birthday, while she was out at yet another lunch with her friends, I packed everything I needed into the new car, left the divorce papers and a letter on the bed in the guest room, and closed the door to our house for the last time, wondering how long it would take for her to notice. I decided to drive across the country and visit every place I wanted to see, but couldn't because my wife wasn't interested. We had a prenuptial agreement, so she had no claim to anything. In the letter, I explained that I was leaving, that I would leave her the house and the car, and that I would pay a monthly sum for exactly a year. After that, she would be on her own. In my haste, I forgot to mention why I was leaving. This omission would work in my favor. 10 days after I left, I received a text from my wife asking where I was and if this was a joke. She called me, but I didn't answer. I never pick up the phone while driving. I had an automated text response that said, "I'm driving and will call back later." She sent me text after text. That night, I stopped at a motel and decided to read her messages before calling her back. At first, she was asking if this was a joke, then when I would come back, then begging me to return, not understanding why I had left. Finally, she said something that changed everything. She was sorry, and it didn't mean anything, and she would cut him off. She was having an affair, something I had never suspected. I called her cell phone, and she was at her parents' house. I learned this tactic from TV. She started yelling at me, and I hung up. I waited 1 minute and called back. She started yelling again, and I hung up again. I waited 2 minutes and called back. This time she wasn't yelling, and I started talking. I told her that she was going to let me talk first. After I said what I needed to say, she could ask questions. I explained why I left. We were married but living like roommates, not even roommates because at least they acknowledge each other. I don't remember the last time we had a conversation or did something together. I didn't remember the last time we had sex, but I knew it was before the accident. I told her that for a month before leaving, I stopped talking and sold everything I had in the house, and she didn't even notice. That it took her 10 days after I left to realize I was gone. If she'd called me on the day I left, I would have turned around immediately. I finished with, "Thank you for admitting to the affair. I really didn't know about that." She tried to apologize, and when she asked me to come back, I asked her why. If she could explain to me why, I would consider it. What was in it for me? What would change? She couldn't answer. So I said goodbye and told her my lawyer knew how to contact me. Then I blocked her. The next day, I bought a new phone with a new number and left the old one in the motel. 2 weeks later, I got an email from my lawyer that the divorce papers were signed. I felt free. Editor's note: Hoop clarifies in a Q and a post that he felt free, not that the divorce was finalized. I kept my word. My lawyer already had all the documents signed by me that would transfer ownership of the house and cars to her. The bank automatically deposits a fixed amount into our shared account every month for a year. For the past 5 years, I've been driving across the country, working remotely. I finally had a reason to start using social media. I post online where I've been and where I'm going. I stay in one place for a couple of weeks and then drive to the next. My ex-wife started following me on Instagram a year after I left, and out of curiosity, I looked at her public posts. I'm not planning on following her back. She posted pictures with her boyfriend soon after I left. To her credit, she didn't badmouth me, at least not on Instagram. 2 months after I left, they apparently broke up. That was the last real update I had about her. I also have a sex life now. Once I put myself out there, it turned out to be easier to have casual relationships. I'm not looking for a committed relationship. After years of traveling, I'm returning to my hometown. There's a reunion I want to attend. I'll stay for a month, maybe 2, and then I'm heading to Canada. I have no plans to seek out my ex, but I also won't go out of my way to avoid her. If I see her, I see her. If I don't, I don't.